I started off with way too small of pots, right? The small pots and pans, 7 inchers there, they just didn't cut it.
All right, guys, so here was my problem. It is now the next day, and what has happened is I continued to melt it in the boiler. It melted out. I poured all of this. I went and got another pan.
I'm gonna say that I did a horrible job, big fat failure.
What's up, guys? Today you're gonna see me make mistakes. I am a first year beekeeper, and I am going to be trying to render beeswax. So watch me make the mistakes so you don't have to. All right, guys, so here was my problem. It is now the next day, and what has happened is I continued to melt it in the boiler. It melted out. I poured all of this. I went and got another pan for $3, and I poured it all through the strainer, which turned out okay. But what was left was this. So I did have wax. I'm gonna show you how much wax I collected, but that was a lot of effort. But you can see in here, any yellow bits, ignore the little floaties from the tree that fell down there. But that's what's left over. But also in there, there's plenty of yellow wax. And so I want you to take note of that because there's still tons of wax in here. Number one reason is that my container was not big enough. So let me show you what the wax is now. We're gonna get reset back up and try to extract the rest of the wax. So at the end of the day, this was all the wax that we got. Not very much. And so we poured it through the strainer, got most of the clumps out. There's still some stuff at the bottom. People say to scrape the bottom of that. But I might try to throw this all back in and re-render this one more time, just in the crock pot itself. While it's fully in a liquid state, I'm gonna scoop out all the black stuff. And then hopefully it'll be hot enough and we scoop it out in such small sections that the wax in the water does melt off. So that's my game plan, and we're gonna try that now. All right, guys, so the number one culprit was these pots are too small. So warning, make sure that you buy the appropriate size pots. Also, this is year one, and I got this honey and extra wax from 2 dead hives. I now have 3 or 4 live hives that are going, so probably have a lot more next year to process. But to get all this out, I'm just gonna put it all into the crock pot, which is slightly bigger. I still don't think this is big enough, but it's big enough for what I have here. All right, guys, finally, we got it all in there. I'm gonna take this guy, fill full of some water. And take it back. Set it upright. All right, I'm just gonna let that guy run. Check on it here in a few hours. All right, here we are checking in on about an hour. It's loosened up quite a bit. There's still some chunks here of yellow, so it's not fully melted yet. So we're gonna let it just continue to sit. You can see that there is some wax. There's yellow on this red part here that when it's warm enough that when we come out, it's liquid. At that point, we're gonna start scooping this stuff out. This is all the cocoons, the dead, everything, all the stuff. So it just bogged down all the strainers from before. Really wasn't much that we could do about that. This strainer here, we basically, at the end, I just poured from this container. We're just gonna pretend that this is a container. Basically, we just poured straight through there and let it cool off. That's why you see where we got that from. But effectively, this didn't really do very much. It clogged up almost immediately. So what we wanna do instead is we're gonna heat all of this liquid up, and then we're gonna scoop out all the stuff. And then what's left over, all right, guys, here it is. It's been a few hours now. We just have a spoon with holes in it. You can see this is a lot more runny. There's a lot more yellow. That's probably wax. I'm gonna throw that out. So this is gonna be a lot more of that wax will just kind of stay out. It's probably some gross water and stuff too. These are all, again, the cocoons, the shells, the bees themselves, all the random crap that fell in it last night while it was cooling. Just getting rid of all of that, and then we'll let this dry. You can see right there, there's yellow in there. There's yellow in there. That is wax that's solidified upon hitting the cold pan. So my thought is while it's still warm, maybe we'll have to do this little by little. while it's still warm, I'm gonna use this spoon. It's gonna be hard to do, but I'll scoop it and I'll actually press it against there to press it out and then put dry cake effectively down there. All right guys, so that worked significantly better. You see there's a lot less yellow in there now. This has some wax on it. Not sure how I'll get that out later, but if you can see in here, almost completely clean, and there's about 1/4 of an inch of wax on the top that I can see. So that's a lot larger surface area. I should get an equal amount of wax as we did yesterday. And I don't know what I'll do with this. Either compost it or feed it to the chickens, one of the two. Here we are the next day on a rainy morning, and I'm going to show you what we got going on here. This ended up cooling overnight. Nice big layer of wax on it here. You can see when it shrinks, kind of separates. Not sure how well you can see it on camera, but as it shrinks, it separates out. It's basically gross honey water and boiled insects, and it's actually pretty dang good. Actually smells pretty dang good. Okay, so I'm gonna set this down carefully. See if we can brush some of this stuff off and scrape this stuff off. Neat thing about this is, I'm gonna go inside real quick. I know there's still some quite large floaties in there. This is about the same thickness as that. So I got a little over double the honey, or sorry, double the beeswax that's left. I'm gonna actually throw these two back into one pot, melt it all down, and run it through the strainer one last time. This is all the stuff that I couldn't get out that was just floating around the bottom. So I'll do that next. And here I am, I've got all of this back inside. I'm just gonna take this beeswax here, or there's some crumblies on the bottom, hold it carefully, break it one more time, and set it in there. Same thing with these here. I'm gonna set these in there, like that, put some water in, and that's just gonna help separate all the wax out, right? It's gonna melt back down. The wax will all be at the top. Hopefully all these particulates we can scoop out. And then we're not gonna have to be competing against any of the other stuff. Heat this guy up, and we'll come back in a bit. All right guys, it is back up to a boil. You can see it's all one piece there. There's still some chunkies in there. This is all, the wax is melted as well, so I'm gonna just pour it through, strain it one last time, and let it cool again. I'm going to reuse this pot right here, and that is the crock pot. And then we're just gonna let that dry and cool off. All right guys, after 3 long days, finally have it here. Hope you enjoyed the time lapse of it drying. I've got a bunch of nice honey wax, and I have a lot of takeaways from this, mostly from my mistakes, and I hope that you can watch this and not make those. Again, first time I've ever done it. I'm so glad for the experience having tried to do it, but I made tons of mistakes. Takeaway number 1, I'm just gonna use the crock pot from now on. Takeaway number 2, I started off with way too small of pots, right? The small pots and pans, 7 inchers there, they just didn't cut it, especially since I'm gonna have much more to deal with in the future. And the third one, I scraped all of my Lands Frames combs because I have Lands combs. I'm no longer gonna be using those. So I cannibalized it instead of giving it to the bees to reuse. And a lot of the cocoons and the bees and the filth came out of this. If you're just uncapping wax cappings, you shouldn't have as much issue as I had here. All in all, as a lean expert, I'm gonna say that I did a horrible job, big fat failure, but I'm so glad because you fail forward and you learn. So next time I go to render beeswax, I'm gonna be far better. I'm gonna take all this experience with me forward. I'm going to use better tools, and I'm going to plan for it properly. My attempts to go through, I still think they can hold true as far as getting a double boiler. I'm just going to get a larger pot. I'm so glad I do have a bunch of disposable throwaway pots and pans. I'm going to go get larger versions of the same thing. I wouldn't have had near the problem if I just would have started there. And also, this crock pot was super handy because I could throw stuff in, throw water in, turn it on, go do something else, come back, and it was already going and doing its own thing. I didn't have to worry about an open flame. I didn't have to worry about a whole bunch of things, and it just kept that peace of mind. I don't know what I'll do with this yet, but I am super excited to just
Get that nice, beautiful amount of beeswax there, all cleaned up, ready to go. And who knows? We'll probably make something with it on the channel later. But if you guys like this kind of content, subscribe, follow the process. I don't know what I'm doing, and you should definitely check out and do your own research on what to do. See ya.
Bum bum ba da ba ba bum 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 ba da ba ba bum 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 ba da ba ba bum